Welcome back, everyone, to another interview from the Draw Control podcast. On today's episode, I'm joined by first year Northwestern women's lacrosse player Brooke Stroh. In her collegiate career so far, Brooke has played in 9 games and has 1 assist, 2 ground balls, and 1 draw control as she helped Northwestern to a Big Ten championship and to a Final Four appearance as well. Before college, Brooke was an Under Armour All-American, and I'm super excited to sit here today and talk with her. So, Brooke, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, and how's it going?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, obviously, your first year just wrapped up. So, overall, what have you taken away from your freshman year, and how have you reflected on the season since it ended about a couple weeks ago at this point?
Yeah. So we were in school for a little while after the season, which was nice because something that I would say I've reflected is, you don't get a ton of time with the girls on your team, so you kind of have to make every moment special. I would say college is really hard. Like I sort of went into it. I went to boarding school, so I was expecting it to be somewhere along those lines, but especially being a college D1 athlete, it's hard to find time to do everything that you want to do. So you just sort of need to every day keep the ball moving forward and keep working. But you do have to remember that college is hard.
Yeah. Well, that was one of my next questions, and I guess I'll ask it to you now. What was like the biggest adjustment to college lacrosse, both on and off the field?
I think the pace of the game was so different to me. I tore my ACL my senior year, so I missed my senior season. And going from junior year in high school to Northwestern lacrosse was just like wild. I mean, everyone's amazing. Everyone works hard. There's no like drop off. And I think just the biggest thing that I learned was how fast the pace of the game is. Like you have to think fast, you have to move fast. Just if you, I'm sure you've seen this when you watch the game, but the ball moves so fast. Everyone is always moving. There's always something going on. So that's something that I kind of had to learn when I was getting back into it after recovering from the ACL.
And the physicality too. That's something that I noticed. It seems like a lot more of stuff is let go in college than I assume it is in high school.
Yes, definitely. I would agree with that. There were definitely times when we would play games and it would get, dirty and chippy, but the refs wouldn't call anything, which personally I enjoy, but I think some people maybe wish that they called more.
Yeah. Well, that's always a conversation online. I feel like no matter when that happens or not. But I am curious, like obviously it's the off season now. What are your plans for the summer? And I guess what do you hope to work on before your sophomore year?
Yeah, I am doing summer school in London for a little bit. And then I have an internship, as I'm sure you know, out of college, you need to be sure you're always trying to get jobs and that sort of thing. So, um, keeping my brain sharp, but I also definitely want to be working on lacrosse. I want to probably play at least 5 days a week, if not all seven. And I really want to work on my left hand, and I also want to work on the draw because that's something that I got to work with Kelly a little bit during the school year, but I think that that's something that I can really hone in over the summer and come back to school like totally ready and locked in.
That's cool. You're going to London. Do you have any what's the thing you're most looking forward to seeing there?
Um, I'm really excited to go see like Big Ben in the House of Parliament. I don't know. I was hoping to find like a tour or something there because I think that both of those places seem just old and beautiful and just very cool.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, I would love to see that one day myself. I think for me, and I assume you can't do it not when you're there because it's not going on, but going to like a Premier League game, I feel like that would be a lot of fun.
That would be incredible. Yeah, I wish it was they're not playing when I'm there, but I totally would.
Well, let's transition now and talk about the beginning of your lacrosse career and sort of work all the way up to where we are now. So it says on your bio you're from Woodside, California. So talk about growing up there. How'd you start playing lacrosse, especially in an area where I feel like lacrosse isn't as popular as it is in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah. Well, I grew up playing lacrosse because my dad played in college. He played at Amherst. And my older brother got into it before me. And so when I was really young, of course, I wanted to be just like him. So I started playing. And then I played just on like a regular, like young kids team that was around here. My dad had made a couple friends with guys that played lacrosse in college as well, and they ran a great team. And then from there, I was on tenacity and then I was on steps, which was amazing. But I would say that growing up in Woodside and in California, where, lacrosse is not super popular, it was it was hard. It was hard to find great competition. It was hard to find um, girls that really wanted to play. Like I would have to travel pretty far. When I was on tenacity, I traveled basically 2 hours to practice and 2 hours back every Sunday for an hour and a half practice. Um, and there's so much travel because most of the tournaments are on the East Coast, and so that's like a 6 hour flight. Um, but so it was hard. But I do think that now it's starting to grow more in at least California, which I'm really happy about because I think it'll be better for girls and boys that want to be really good but don't want to have to travel all that far to play people that are as good as them.
Yeah, for sure. And growing up, did you have like a favorite player team that you like to watch?
I always really enjoyed Northwestern. I mean, when I was younger, they were on their streak, and they were amazing. And then I always watched men's lacrosse with my dad and my brother. We were big Paul Rabel fans. And then for women, I loved Sam Puzo when I was younger because I'm a redhead as well, and so I was very excited that there's some ginger representation on the field.
Nice, nice. Well, I want to ask you a question about your dad. It's obviously Father's Day is coming up, so I just want to ask you like what he meant to your lacrosse career, especially since he also played in college and how he's helped you out even today, since you are in college yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned him many times already, so I think it's obvious that he played a big role in my lacrosse career. But he really got me into the sport. He pushes me and my brother every day to be better. I mean, not just at lacrosse, but I would say that I always look forward to getting to play with him and Brayden, who's my brother, out on the field. And I think that he really was the one that made me want to play in college. Um, he pushed me to be on a club team. He pushed me to work really hard every day, even sometimes when I didn't necessarily want to. So I think that I owe almost everything in my lacrosse career to my dad. So thanks, Dad. Shout out to you.
Well, let's talk about your time at Deerfield because that's where you played before heading off to college. What was your high school lacrosse experience like at Deerfield? And I guess how was it being so far away from home as well, when you were out there? It must have made the adjustment to college easier, but I feel like when you're in high school, when you're like 14, 15 years old, that's got to be really hard being so
Yeah,
far away from home for the first time.
definitely. I went my sophomore year, which was nice that I had freshman year under my belt. I don't think I could have gone if I went for my freshman year. But it was kind of a spur of the moment decision because of COVID. Because I'm sure like everywhere shut down, but California got hit hard. Grocery stores were closed, like you couldn't do anything. School was totally shut down. Um, and my brother kind of started thinking about going to boarding school. he's a year older than me, so he went halfway through his sophomore year, which was my freshman year. And he absolutely loved it. He went to Taft. He got to play with like the Kavanaugh, and he just like absolutely loved it. And so I had been applying that whole time, but my mentality was sort of if I don't get in, if I'm not able to go, I'll be totally content and happy to stay here. But I was lucky enough to get into Deerfield, and it was just an amazing experience. I would recommend it to anyone who asks. I think it really shaped me as a person. It made me a better person. It definitely made the transition to college easier. As you said, I'm actually closer now to home than I was back then, but it it taught me a lot about myself because, as you said, you're so far away from home and you sort of have to do everything by yourself. Um, but I think that with that, even though it was really hard and I was like away from home and, it was a new experience, it really did teach me a lot and I absolutely loved it. So I'm really lucky I got to go there.
That's awesome. And obviously, like, do you have like a favorite memory when you were at Deerfield, like
I,
lacrosse wise?
yeah, I would say my sophomore year we played Taft, who I would call our rival, and it was a really tough game. It was tight. And I think we won by two. But my one of my best friends at school, Morgan Giardina, she's actually the goalie at Hopkins. She had 20 saves in that game, and sort of solidified that win for us. And it was just like energy was so high. We probably had the most fans we ever had at one of our games, which was so much fun. And then my since my brother went to Taft, it meant even more that we beat them because I could rub it in his face. So that was one of my best memories for lacrosse.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, you also play club lacrosse for Steps. I'm curious how your club lacrosse experience sort of helped prepare you for college with Northwestern.
Yeah, I think that club lacrosse re like was the biggest factor in me being ready for college lacrosse because when I our team would travel and go to, Maryland and Boston and all those places on the East Coast, we were able to play the girls that had been, playing together for forever, which was hard. And, I remember we played the Connecticut Grizzlies one time and they were incredible. But it really did help me and my teammates prepare to play D1 because those were the girls that we would end up, playing again. Like, um, even though it was definitely hard to travel that much, our team was really like those were some of my best friends. So I think that it was easier to do everything that we did with girls that I really enjoyed. But I do think that playing on a club team like Steps, where we all worked really hard. We played great competition. We were able to get invited to, good tournaments and stuff. That really helped me be prepared for college lacrosse.
Well, let's talk about that recruiting process with Northwestern. What was that like for yourself, and what made you want to go there versus other schools you wanted to go to? Obviously, you said you grew up a big Northwestern fan, so that must have been cool once Kelly gave you that call.
Yes, it was amazing. On September 1st, there was a video from her in front of the lake with the sun setting. Oh my gosh. It like um I get emotional thinking about it. But it I had been my grandma went to Northwestern, so I had been looking at Northwestern and going to their camp since I was a little girl. I'd always loved it. So it was sort of like if they wanted me, that I basically had it in my head that I was gonna go there. And I was lucky enough that they did. I mean, recruiting is a hard process, so I was talking to a couple different schools, but Northwestern was kind of my main focus. And I went to one of their camps in October because they wanted to see me play again. And pretty nerve-wracking, but I was able to play well. And um, a couple days later, they gave me an offer. And obviously, I slept on it because I feel like my parents basically told me I should, but I knew from the moment on September 1st when I got that video that that was where I wanted to be. So it wasn't a difficult decision, and I couldn't be happier that I made it. I'm so lucky and grateful that Kelly gave me the opportunity to play there.
What's it like being coached by Kelly Amante?
It is amazing. I mean, she knows all the ins and outs of the game. She really cares and pushes every single one of her um of of us, and she really pushes gratitude, which I think is something that I have picked up this year a lot, which I think has been really beneficial in terms of school and lacrosse and just like every facet of my life because it's easy to sort of dig a hole and, find things really hard when you're playing at a school like Northwestern where academics are great, everyone's good. Um, it's cold in the winter, that sort of thing. So it Kelly really helped me and our team as a whole use gratitude and a bunch of like mindset tools to be able to reset and be grateful for everything that we have. But I think overall, I'm just really lucky to have her. She pushes every single one of us every day, and all of us look up to her so much. And she's just an amazing coach. Like she really knows the game so well. I've never met anyone um, that knows more about lacrosse. So I'm really lucky to be coached by someone that is so smart.
Now you get to play in the Big Ten, which is arguably one of the best conferences for women's college lacrosse. What's it like being a part of that conference and then the competition that you face each game?
Yeah, it we're really lucky to be in a conference where all the teams are really talented and have great players. Um, and I think that um, it makes every game a battle. I think that our team loves that. We love, the hard fight. We love to push each other and get better. So being in a conference and having a schedule where we play a bunch of super great teams that are hard to beat, obviously makes us so much better. But I mean, we really are lucky to be in a conference where all the teams are so talented and good. So when we play well, they force us to play better, and when we play poorly, we have to step up our game. So it helped us in like on the greater stage, when we were in the Final Four, getting to play teams that were so good the whole time, then we were able to play teams like UNC and BC and come out on top sometimes and be close in other times.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that in a couple questions from now. But I wanted to ask you, like, obviously your team's has a huge target on your back just because of, the history, how good you guys have been, especially this season with all the top players that you guys have. How do you maintain that consistency throughout a regular season with all the pressure, with having the target on your back? Because I feel like that's something that a lot of people don't really think about when watching your team. People just assume like, oh man, they win so much, but I feel like there's a lot more that goes behind it behind the scenes.
Yeah. I would say Kelly's whole MO is just sort of focus on us. We don't need to focus on what's going on outside. Like, um, of course, there's going to be a target on our back if we are playing well and we have, players like Madison Taylor and Sammy White and Jane Hanson and even like Delaney Schweitzer. Um, but we we really try hard to just focus on ourselves and not think about anything that's going on outside of us. Obviously we'll do stuff about what teams we're playing in the future, like scout and film and that kind of thing, but that's the most we will focus on things that are out of our control and outside of our program. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about, I would say, the most memorable part of your season when you guys won the Big Ten championship against Maryland in their home turf. Talk about what it was like winning that championship for the first time in your career, especially since JJ Sirianni really made that a close game than maybe the shots on goal indicates.
Yeah, I mean, I will say it was a stressful game. Um, but it was amazing. When we won, I think it was so special. I mean, we were on their turf, so that maybe even made it better. Um, and I think something that was really awesome about that game is a lot of people stepped up. And that tournament in general, but like one of my good friends, Aditi Foster, she played an amazing game, won the game for us. And like Jane played incredible with all of her back checks. So I think that like props to JJ for, making that such a close game, and Maryland was played amazing, and it was hard to play a team that's so good, like we were talking about with the Big Ten conference in general, but um it made it so much more special when we were able to pull out the win.
Now in the Final Four, or what's so obviously you guys had a really good tournament run. You beat UPenn to get to the Final Four. I guess before we talk about the games, what was the Final Four experience like off the field? Did you get to do anything cool?
Incredible. It was so, so, so much fun. Now, being at Gillette Stadium was the coolest experience of my life. And it was packed too. There were a bunch of fans and spectators there, which was really special. Just shows how much we're growing the game. And then I'm trying to think if we did anything. Um, I will say we practiced at a bunch of like very random spots, which was kind of fun for us. Um, we went to, I'm forgetting what it was called, but there was like an arcade in one of the spots where we practiced. And so after our practice, it was raining outside and we just got to hang out and play the arcade games. And, there was some like Papa Shot, and everyone was obviously with a team like ours, everyone's super competitive. So it got pretty serious pretty fast.
Yeah.
But that was super fun that we were able to, do something like that, even though we were in a super random spot.
Yeah, well, it's always the most fun you can find competitiveness in the most random places, and I'm glad that they did the Final Four with the men's because I feel like it made it a lot more, I think, better for TV for fans. I assume that went to that, so I'm glad to hear that the players enjoyed it as well. And obviously next year I think it's going to be in your home turf, so even more of an incentive to try to get back to where you guys were.
Yeah, I mean, um, that will be so much fun. But I think it probably feels like maybe there's more stress on us, but um, I have so much confidence in Kelly and our coaching staff that they'll be able to get us back to the Final Four. So,
Now, in the Final Four that you played in just recently, you had an incredible game against Boston College where you guys came back 11-6 in the third quarter and won that game. Talk about what you learned from the first BC game that you lost that you think helped you out in that win.
um, I think we were hungrier the second time. I think that I think we played well in both games, but I think we wanted it more. I mean, obviously you just said we came back from a a crazy deficit to win the game, and I think that that just shows how much we wanted it when we were at the Final Four. And I also think that, teams change a lot throughout the season. And since we played BC so early, there was a lot that changed on both of our teams. So I think that we were able to do a better job scouting because there was more film to be watched. We were able to, sort of know them better, which in turn helped us more. Um, I also think Delaney played absolutely out of her mind during the BC game. So I think that there were a bunch of factors that contributed, but I will say that I think that we learned from, we lost to both UNC and BC in season. And I think we learned from both of those games that it's just important to never give up and to just keep wanting it. And that made all the difference in the BC game.
Now then, unfortunately, you guys lost to UNC in the national championship game. What makes that team so good? Because obviously they didn't lose to anybody the whole year. And I guess how have you reflected on that loss since it happened? Because I feel like it must be super hard to get all the way to where you want to be and then come up so close at the end. So, and to see like your seniors knowing that that's their final game. I'm just curious like how you've sort of emotionally handled it since it happened.
It was really hard. It was emotional after the game, sitting in the locker room with all of the people that I love and knowing that this is the last time this group will ever be together. It's hard. Um, but I think that all of our girls, we all put 110% effort into that game. And even though we didn't get the outcome that we wanted, I'm really proud of the way that we played. And I will say that UNC was amazing. Their defense was incredible. I think that Chloe Humphrey won the Tewaaraton this year. There's something to be said about being so young, but also being so talented. Um, so I think that they deserved to win. They played really well. They had an undefeated season. Um, Obviously, we would have loved to pull that one out, but I think that in that specific game, we didn't have as many opportunities as they did, at least on offense. So I think that if we ever, I mean, of course, we're going to play them again, but when we do, um, we will be ready and you know, we'll be prepared for their defense, for their offense, for their midfielders. They're fast, they're tough, they're a strong team, and as hard as it was to lose, they played amazing.
Now, there's one more lacrosse question I want to ask you before we get to the non-lacrosse segment. And obviously, you mentioned her a little bit before, but Madison Taylor, what's it like being her teammate? Obviously, everyone gets to see what she does on the field, but I feel like not many people get to know what she's like off the field. And I guess I'll just ask you, do you think she should have won the Tewaaraton Award?
I mean, I definitely think she should have won the Tewaaraton Award. I think, she beat the in-season record for goals scored, and that's a feat that, no one has accomplished yet. So that was amazing. But I look up to her so much. I think that she is the way she is because she's so humble. And she really does play for her team. And I think that it's easy to think that, she's just so good and so amazing that she probably plays for herself, but she works so hard. And she is someone that I will always, always look up to. Um, but she really is humble, and that's something that I aspire to bring more to myself. But of course, as a Northwestern player, I do believe that she should have won the Tewaaraton.
Well, let's move on to a segment I like to call the non-lacrosse segment, where I ask you some non-lacrosse questions to get to know you more off the field. So I guess the first one I'll ask is, what's the best concert you've ever been to?
Uh, I really like country music. So I went to Zach Bryan. I thought that was a great concert. And then this year I went to this guy, Gregory Alan Isakov. He's like kind of mellow music. I went with one of my teammates actually in Chicago, and he was amazing. So,
Now, if you could have anyone play you in a movie, who would you pick?
ooh, I would say Emma Stone because she's a redhead and I love her.
Nice. Now, which player on your team has the best style, both on and off the field, besides yourself, obviously?
Yeah, of course. Um, Definitely Delaney Switzer on and off the field. The first time I ever saw her in her helmet with she's got the eye black going, I was
Yeah.
terrified. But she also has amazing style off the field. And then Jane Hansen also has amazing style.
Now, if you could be stuck on a long road trip with one of your teammates, which one would you pick?
I feel like I have a lot of options, but I would go with Lucy Monroe because she has really good music and I feel like she could, she would know the music vibe the whole time. So,
Now, what is one place you would love to travel to soon, since you said you're going to London and all those fun places this summer?
um, I've always wanted to go to Ireland because I feel like it seems really beautiful and I'd love to like do some sort of hike or backpacking through there.
Nice. It does look like a lot of fun. It looks very green every time I see
Yeah.
pictures of it. I guess the last non-lacrosse question I have for you is, what's been the most interesting thing you've read or seen this week?
On the back of a Snapple lid, this is super random, but I read that Australia is wider than the moon. So that was something that I did not know.
That's pretty cool, actually. I did not know that myself.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the last thing I want to ask you, Brooke, before we end things off here today is, do you have any shout outs you want to give to any of your family members, teammates, friends, family, classmates that don't play lacrosse? You can give them a shout out as well, but feel free to shout out as many people as you want. And who should we have on the podcast next?
Definitely shout out to my dad, my mom, my brother. Shout out to my teammates in general. Oh, gosh, there's so many people I want to shout out. Stella Axe, Brooke Mahoney, Claire Morosi, all my girls. Um, oh gosh, who should someone I think would be good for you to have on the podcast next? I realize this is a draw podcast,
Oh,
but
it's not a draw. It's just the name. The reason why we picked it was because we wanted to distinguish itself from like a men's lacrosse. Because obviously men's they do face off. It's draw. So we interviewed defenders, goalies, attackers, everyone. So
I would say Morgan Giardina from Hopkins. She's the goalie.
okay,
She went to Deerfield with me, but she is amazing and super interesting.
awesome. We'll definitely have to reach out and see what she has to say. Well, Brooke, I want to say thank you so much for coming on. It really means a lot to us. I enjoyed talking with you today, and obviously, hopefully, you have a really fun off season. Especially enjoy London. Never been there, so I can't really tell you what to do. But if when you get back, you gotta give us some recommendations, and then obviously, wishing you guys the best stuff for the upcoming season as well.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.